Afternoon everybody, Craig Argent here again for our second instalment of Joico's C Education. Today I'm actually going to be working and creating a blunt textured bob. We are seeing a lot of blunt work being done in the salon at the moment, so I thought I'd give you a little nod into how I do my blunt bobs. There are numerous ways of doing them, so hopefully what you see today you will pick up a little trick from, and yeah, hopefully take something back into the salon for you to play with. All right. Now, tools I'm going to use today, I explained last time the different tools that I'm using. I'm actually going to be cutting this technique through the comb to hold the hair stationary. So I will just use a classic straight blade scissor. If you're not comfortable cutting freehand through a comb, I'd suggest that you go into a scissor with a serrated blade. That stops the hair from pushing away as you're closing the blade. So by holding the comb into the section of hair, this will stop that from happening. So I'll explain that as I'm going. So the key thing whenever you're doing anything along these lines is about having clean sections. Not getting sort of too big and ahead of yourself. A lot of the time, and there's no wrong or right way to do this, sometimes people will section the hair from crown to back of ear, cut the entire back section, or they might split that into quadrants and actually do 1/4, come through to the second quarter, do a front panel and the opposite front panel. In my case here, I'm actually just going to be doing this in a classic bob format and as far as the sectioning is concerned, and I will actually wrap this around the ear as I'm going. This primarily can work two ways. It allows you to save time when you're in the salon and actually doing this yourself. As you know, a lot of the time when we're in salon, we are working to time frames. So unlike that, I'm also working to a time frame. So we'll get into it. So the first section that we're going to do will be roughly about an inch thick, which will be our base and our guideline for the entire cut. The key thing here that we've just got to check is to double check what the fall of the hairline is. So as we can sort of see here, we're quite high in the middle, and then we actually do drop on each corner of the nape area there. Now this can be done one of two ways. I'll actually probably do one side or one half of this through the comb, and the second half I'll actually do pressed against the skin, which will give us our guide. Second section I'll do as if I'm running through the comb. So we actually drop the comb section probably about ½ centimetre above our actual cut line, and that gives us a little bit of a guide. Key thing here is actually just working and making sure that your sections are clean, because they also provide you with a good guideline as to follow there. Each corner. Now, as far as this actual haircut is concerned, sorry, doesn't matter. As far as this haircut is actually concerned, it's actually quite a quick cut in the sense of being able to get the baseline established quite quickly. So, the more you do this, the more confident you become, the quicker and more efficient you move through each section. So here I'm going to take about 1/4 inch sections. Once again, making sure they're nice and clean. everything from this point on, as we can see now, we can see our guideline through. Any thicker in your sections and you'll lose your guideline. If you, for whatever reason, can't see your guide, your section's too thick, come back through and take a slightly smaller section. So you can clearly see our guide through that. So at this point here, this will now be cut. Speaker's shutting down. Now, the reason why we cut through the comb as well is that we're holding the hair in natural form. Sometimes when you come in with your fingers, you'll actually give yourself a little bit of elevation, which will give you a slight graduated effect. What you'll actually find is you'll get a slightly rounded shape when it dries. This is clearly about, once it's dried, to be sitting very horizontal. I'm assuming is probably the best way of avoiding that. Like all bobs, there's still a very strong element of precision. As most of us know, the bob haircut, regardless, is still one of the hardest ones and one of the ones that we take the most pride in making sure we get perfect.
They can be very unforgiving, can't they, Craig?
Oh, very, very unforgiving. So straight away now we're moving literally to the top of the ear. So this is the last of our nape sections. My last sort of graduated haircut, I didn't use really section clips at all. This time around, obviously, as you can clearly see, I'm using clips. And I actually was speaking to one of my friends who's also a guest artist just a few moments ago, and he wanted to make sure that I had enough clips. So for Trent, I'm just making sure that I've got a few more clips for you. Tara was almost one of the most famous people in Queensland on the weekend. Woke up the other day not feeling real flash. Had to go and have the big test done. So we were holding our breath to see whether or not we're going to have a model today. But thankfully, all clear. But she may have a little coughing outburst here and there. So. A lot of the time what you'll notice in salons is that you will have stylists that like to get in, they'll cut a section and they feel that they've got a fluff. I'm not sure really what that sort of benefits that gives you. I think sometimes people feel it's being a little bit creative. If you trust the work and trust the lines that you're actually creating, you shouldn't need to have to come through and fluff the work. So key thing here is we just need to double check each corner, make sure we're right, follow through. If we want to double check again to see how well we're actually going, I'll just take a section through the middle at the back, comb that down, and as you can see, we're almost perfectly blunt. Yeah. Hopefully you guys are seeing this quite clearly. Last time we were in the front of the shop and it was quite light and bright. Today we're in the back half of my shop, which I suppose is like a little hidden section of our shop. It's a little bit more quieter, it's a lot more relaxed, a little bit more chilled out. This is a section for clients that want to come and just read a book, take it easy, not be on show. We also have a colour processing and working table here, so people that are coming in with work to do can sit down on the table and fire up their laptops and do their bits and pieces. So just wanted to provide two sections to the shop that allows clients to have be able to cater to all clients' needs. Now, this is the first section where we're coming in front of the ear. For something a little different, what I might actually do is just leave maybe the little front corner. So it'll actually come around quite blunt, and then we might just dip down into a little bit of a disconnected piece on the front. So once again, just a little bit of a play on this. We'll dry it, have a look at it. If it's working, we'll keep it in. If it's not working, we'll take it out. So one of the key things I think you've got to be mindful of when you do a blunt haircut like this is what the client's lifestyle is and how they're going to be maintaining it. Sometimes I will still give a tiny little bit of a dip to the front, just to allow for the hair drying over the ear and a little bit of fullness. If I'm cutting it blunt perfectly the whole way around, what can sometimes happen is it will actually pick up in the front and will actually slope up. If anything, I prefer to cut it with a slight slope down, so if it does pop up, it balances out. So we're going through, still following all our lines. So as we can sort of clearly see here from a side profile perspective, we can see that we're not elevating the hair at all. The comb keeps the scissor perfectly in place and keeps the hair perfectly in place. So I have a little play here. I'll bring this forward. I might just ever so slightly taper down freehand. Hand running down this edge. Once again, each section before I move forward, I'm just double checking, making sure everything's where I want it to be. As you can see today, we're getting a little fancy. If you're seeing a reflection there in the mirror, we've got a little overly light today.
So, Craig, we have a question from Felicity.
Hey, Felicity, how you doing?
What scissors do you like to use?
I have a myriad of scissors in my kit. I think at the moment, I obviously don't use all my scissors. I think if you look at my scissor pouch, there must be probably 10 or 11 pairs, maybe. Some people go and buy fancy clothes and whatever each year. I have to sneak a pair of scissors into my little spend. So my wife, who's the self-appointed Minister of Finance in our house, every now and again will sort of notice that there's a little bit of a chunk gone out of my bank balance. For me, it's really about what feels comfortable in hand. Fortunate, unfortunate, I've been blessed with big hands, so I need big, strong scissors. I actually run at the moment, I think these are 6.5s. Yep, 6.5s. So with these ones here, these are called Stellas. Away from that, I couldn't tell you anymore. I'm a little bit old school when it comes to scissors. A lot of the ones I like to use, well, my first pair of scissors I ever used was a pair of Nicks, and I've tried to source them as much as possible over the years. So they're hard one to find, but when you do get them, they're brilliant. I actually still have my very, very first pair of scissors I ever bought, and they're about that long. We'll try and dig them out a little later if we've got a bit of time, so you can have a look at how ridiculously small they are. Yeah, when it comes to scissors though, it's really just, it's a personal preference, what's comfortable in hand. The key thing that I think we're all going to be very mindful of is trying not to share scissors. Obviously there are times when it does happen with your colleagues at work, but the less you can do that, because for example, if I was to get onto a scissor myself from somebody else, because of just the strength of my fingers and having bigger hands, I will actually change the full balance of the scissor on somebody. So literally within a haircut, someone will really notice a difference. So scissors are very much a personal thing, as we're all aware. Great question. I could talk scissors all day. Some people like cars, I like scissors.
Scissor fetish. That's Felicity has just written there.
It's almost every year though I do reward myself with a new pair of scissors. And I'll keep, sorry, Minister of Finance is in the background here and she just heard that.
The CFO has questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So once again, just following through and then just running freehand down to the sort of front piece. They can be disconnected in two ways. I'm actually giving it just a very, very slight soft curve as I'm moving into that disconnected piece. You can literally run around and literally just stop quite sharp.
So Craig, when build their confidence when it comes to
yeah, freehand cutting is just one of those things that you've just got to be very mindful of. Make sure the hair's got some dampness to it, not completely dry. I think if you're starting to do freehand cutting, you need to do it on slightly damper hair as opposed to dry hair. Dry hair will move away from the blade, so you've just got to be very mindful that you can get chasing, which can then get you into trouble. And what I mean by chasing is when you're actually cutting through the hair, the actual hair will actually push away. As you close the blade, the hair will actually move out of the blade. Where it's damp, you've got a little bit more traction, a little bit more grip to be able to keep the hair in play.
Sorry guys, a minute ago we just had a little technical difficulty, but we've fixed that now. We had to ditch the ring light.
No more ring light.
No more ring light.
So we were fancy for about 20 minutes. Now, when it gets to these top layers, what we're actually going to do, I'll be cutting this for the centre part. We normally style Tara's hair off to the side with her normal side parting. Being cut in the middle just allows everything to be even all the way around, which will give us a freedom to move it and style it wherever we wish. So if Tara wants to mix it up and come back to the middle or flick it over to the other side, she has the freedom to be able to do that. Now what you'll also notice here today as well with the dampness of the hair is literally just damp. It's not wet right through, it's not wringing wet, it's not dripping wet. That's twofold, partially because we're doing what we're doing today with the live, so we don't want to actually be sitting here and doing a 20-minute blow dry. But also too, it allows you with this type of haircut to see exactly where you're at a lot quicker. The wetter it is, you actually just tend to find that you do get a little bit more clumping of the hair. In this case here, as you can start to see, these ends are starting to dry quite nicely for me, so you know, the second part of this, as far as the styling is concerned, it's going to move a lot quicker. So the key thing here, obviously, just bring the mirror into play, make sure that we are nicely positioned. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually put the body of the hair into a centre part, and then I'll actually bring the front fringe area out and part it where a normal part would be, which I'll do today. That's primarily so because the hair is slightly drying, that we don't want it drying with a big McDonald's arch in the front. So I'm literally just going to flip about that front centimetre, 1/4 of an inch. So as we can clearly see here now, this is going to be quite easy to sort of follow through. You can see what's going to come off.
Thanks for the comments, guys, on the salon decor. Yes, it is pretty cool.
My wife Lara and I have a lot of fun styling our salons and creating the decor in our shops. As you may or may not know, we're actually located in Noosa. So We've had the shop here coming up on our 3rd birthday, and when we sort of came in, we didn't want to come in and sort of just be another salon in town. This is what I refer to as my forever salon. So this is the salon I'll work in until I retire.
And kick the bucket.
I won't kick the bucket, but well, I might. Let's hope not. But yeah, so we've had a real play on sort of a little bit of a French provincial type of vibe, eclectic vibe out here. That's primarily because Lara and I have a real mixture of styles. We like mishmashing a lot of things together. So as you can clearly see, we've predominantly gone with a lot of black out here. A lot of time people are worried that black sort of shuts spaces down, but it actually, if anything, probably creates a little bit more of an openness. Okay, as you can clearly see here now, that's the basic form or basic foundation to our line. We're all nice and straight. We'll take another little side section just to double check so we can see exactly how we're sitting from a blunt perspective. As we can see there, we're pretty horizontal. Now, there's 2 ways of actually playing now with personalising. You can go through at this point in time if you wish to create a little bit of a shadowed layer, or you can come back through and do that when the hair is dry. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can actually go through, hold the hair quite perpendicular to the actual scalp. Here I've actually got a section that's about half an inch thick. You can go through and just do like a double chip.
So what does that do, Craig? A double chip?
A double chip is I'm just coming through in the same section, so what you've just got to watch sometimes is that you don't really create too much of a rounded shape on the bottom. So if we tend to come through and actually be a little bit too soft, a little bit too shallow with our chipping, we'll actually create a soft graduated line to the actual base of the haircut, and we'll lose the foundation of what we're actually trying to do. So doing a double chip allows you to go twice into the one section, which creates a little bit more of a broken up effect. It's not too perfect. This is not about softening and creating a graduated shape. This is really about enhancing and having a very strong blunt line. This can also be done as well if you wanted to with your tapering or your texturizing scissors, where you can actually hold the section out and actually literally just move it on the spot. You don't have to keep going until you completely run out of hair. You just soften it out so you do get a bit of, oops, sorry. So you do get a little bit, you do get a little bit of disparity there, which is something that we're after because we want to have that bit of broken texture. So I might keep going through with this.
Yeah, no, got it. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm using a mobile guideline here. So the previous cut section is the guide for my new. Now, as I'm getting here to the back of the ear, what I want to watch is that I don't take too much substance out of this front corner. So I'll actually stop literally the section behind the ear there, and I'll actually now start to over direct it. So I'll now have a stationary guideline here. What this will also do is just allow for that little piece that I've left, that little disconnected piece on the front, to actually just soften down so it's not sitting blunt as well. I want it to actually have a little bit of a finessed shape. So whether or not we turn it under, whether we bring it straight, whether we even give it a little bit of a whip out, which I think we'll probably do today. Just have a little bit of fun with it. same with my last model. This is Tara's normal daily haircut. So we roll sometimes with a disconnected piece. I sort of toyed with it and we floated it through a few haircuts there, which was quite fun, and Tara got a little bit over it. So we knocked it off, and but now we can start to see just how the layers are perfect. The broken texture now is starting to come into play. Cool. We're charging it quite nicely here, so something you may notice in the background, the foreground background, we actually have some of Joico's new products that are about to launch, so hopefully the sales reps and educators in your respective areas are starting to show you these new products. They are fantastic.
How good do they look?
They look fantastic. I think it's, as we can sort of see, they're all quite sharp with how the packaging and the tones are used on the bottles. So they're very distinctive, very easy to use. Developed a couple of firm favourites. Humidity blocker, yeah. Humidity blocker
plus.
There's actually a slight finishing spray as well, so we'll use that today. Obviously a lot of people are used to the dry shampoo, or familiar with the dry shampoo. There's also a thermal protector spray, it's a blowout cream. We also have a couple of different sprays of different strengths, and we have some new gels. So the gels will be coming in to semi-replace Joy Lotion, so there's a firm gel, and there is also a medium gel. So these are styling gels which can be put into the hair damp to blow dry in.
What else is really cool on these new packaging, guys, is that you can actually see the level of hold on here now. So we've got a 3, a 4 and an 8. So it makes them super easy to use.
So is there a 1 or a 0 in any of the products? The 3 is our lowest one, I think.
Yeah. Oh, blowout doesn't have... Yeah.
So same as at the side, we're now over directing this back to that section behind the ear, so we've now stopped with our mobile guideline and become stationary. So once again, now I'm really just dealing with that little disconnected corner on the front, so I don't want to get too overzealous with that because I don't want to lose it and over texturize it. I think I'll have some fun when we whip that out. Cool. I do notice at times when people are doing these haircuts and they're bringing a little bit of that texture in, is that once they've actually done their baseline, they've put a little bit of texture in here, they then actually come back through and work through the top panel. I actually avoid doing that because what will actually end up happening is you'll end up rounding the shape out too much. So people have a tendency to want to get in and actually hold the section up and get in and chip. As you can sort of see, this comes into a perfect little point because it's working with the fact of the majority of this haircut being one length. If people get in and actually sort of knock this out, what ends up happening is you just overlay it. Certain hair types, certain textures, that'll work perfectly. So if you've got someone who's got naturally curly hair and actually want to embrace that a little bit more, then you can definitely get in and chip. If you're going to get in and chip, I'll chip in with a straight blade and go quite deep with the chipping. But quite sporadic, so I wouldn't be sitting here knocking it off perfectly, so we then ended up with this sort of perfect little shattered ends because it'd be just too layered for what we're after.
Probably create a little line.
You'd definitely create a line.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the large majority of what we're going to do today, I will use a little bit of thermal spray. just spraying into the body. Going to be quite liberal and loose with this as far as where I'm applying, because the blow dry will be once again almost quite liberal and loose as well. I will bring a little bit of a paddle brush into this and maybe a little bit of a round brush right at the very end, just to finesse. Oh my god, how good does this smell? So don't get too caught up in the smell, overuse the product either. So that one there that I just used was Zero Heat.
So it's, yeah, heat.
It's a glossing thermal
heat
protector.
Hero.
As you can see, as Emma was talking about before, it's got the number 3 on it. So quite light. So I'd suggest with a 3, it would actually be giving the hair quite a bit of control, as opposed to a really strong hold, which in this case makes the hair quite malleable, so we can actually manipulate and still move it around, and Tara then will be able to get her hands into it as well. It's not going to be too stiff and hard. Alright, please excuse the additional noise here at the head dryer. What we're basically doing with the drying side of things here is we're actually just allowing the haircut to be the feature or the strong point. So we're actually letting it do all the work. Hair drying wise, I'm literally just holding in a downward motion and literally just loosening up the hair. I'm not sitting here over manipulating and taking it super straight. I will have a little bit of a play with a paddle brush just to make sure, but I will do a bit of a wrapping technique with that. So. Try to be mindful not to stick my tongue out. Make sure I get caught with my tongue out. So these front pieces here, I'm literally just grabbing onto those, pinching in between my fingers, running down the length so I get that section there nice and straight, and it's just solely through tension with my hands, rolling it out. Remember, this haircut can be finished 2 ways. It can be finished quite loose and textured, which is what we'll be working with today, and really accentuating the bluntness of the bob shape. Or you can go through and work it smooth, rather than rolling it under as we traditionally would with a traditional bob. Lift the blow drying it straight, so holding it. So once again, you show off the strength of the haircut, but it'll be a little bit flatter, a little bit neater. So the Tara was going in a bit, which is dressing up a little bit more, a bit more corporate. Then so you definitely go with a slightly smoother effect. Going with our daily, we're going to have a little bit more texture, a little bit more fun. Just running my fingers through or my hands through in quite a wide format. I'm actually almost sort of doing a bit of a wrapping technique but using my hands. Tara's part is normally on her left side, so I'm blow drying everything over as if the palm's on the right hand side, so I'm pushing the roots that direction, so then when you do flip over the roots you're going to have a little bit more lift through the top, and get a little bit of body through there as well. So working everything from the root area. The nozzles pick up a great deal of heat, so at any point in time you want to get in and work it like a straightener. Keep the dryer moving so it doesn't get hot for the fire. There you go, Nara. Holding up. Excellent. cut like this, the key thing is about the client being able to replicate this at home. So the easier the client can see that this is for them to do from a styling standpoint, i.e. The less brush work required, the more they're going to go on board and actually really own the style. I might just jump on the very front section just with a round brush just to accentuate my little kick. So I'm just running the round brush over the sort of top layer, potentially around the face, just to finesse a little bit. Apply a bit of heat, let it dry away, let it cool down. As I'm doing that, I'm slowly sliding the brush out. Give that a nice little whip. Quite random with the sectioning. Sometimes at this point you can play if you wanted to by actually just putting a bit of a loose twist. And yes, you can wind the brush in and hold, or turn the brush on a slight angle. Let it cool down. And then we'll just add to that little bit of texture for you. So I'll go a little slower with that one. To generate the heat in the section, instead of winding straight in, as you start to wind in, turn your brush with the brush head to the point of the head. Roll. And right. Let it cool down.
And that's the key, isn't it? Letting it cool down.
Letting it cool down, absolutely. Sometimes gotten a little bit too obsessed with using like straightening irons and things like that to create these types of effects. What we sometimes find, particularly when you want something to look quite sort of disheveled and disconnected and a bit looser, playing with a brush, sort of going down the sort of traditional blow drying routes allows you to have a little bit more of a softer, more natural finish to it. Sometimes the irons tend to give a little bit too much of a polished finish. So with the front fringe area, you can definitely, if you wanted to, bring that and the bangs, you can be a little bit more sort of forward to that, a little bit draping across the eye. The we're going to do something like this for some photo work, then you would definitely, explore that avenue. So back onto my little disconnected corner. Cool. Now for the final phase of this now, I'm actually just going to turn the heat off. And just put one couple and make it carrot, close your eyes. What I'm doing here is I just want to loosen the base up. I want the whole thing to have a little bit of a nice easy flow and movement. So you can just start to see here with that sort of shadowed textured layer that's sort of not too perfect. But by using the thinning scissors, it allows us to get a little bit of variation in that texture. So this can be played with waxes and so forth. I'm going to have a little play with my new favourite product. I'm just going to zip across. That is a humidity blocker. Because we live in beautiful sunny Queensland, humidity is a big challenge daily for clients. So all I'm literally doing here is just pinching the hair, opening it up so I can get the spray into the layers, into the interior part with the haircut. A lot of time people go, oh, how do you know what movements to do? I just go, think of money. This also has amazing smells. Alright, I don't think we really need to play too much more with this. We coloured Tara's hair on Saturday. So basically what we've worked with there is just literally a powder, very light and 6%, fine to medium weaves. Then we've actually put a low light through. We've kept the nape area and below without any colour, any foil in it at all, just so it gives the actual haircut just that little bit of support, a little bit of shadow, allows you to sort of get that little bit of a peekaboo depth popping through there. And the low light that we put through was 8NN and 10%. And that just puts that nice sort of soft tone over it. So it balances really quite nicely with the highlights. So as you can see, we've kept the face point open here, but this can quite easily be dressed down. Actually, open it up. We're starting to see a lot of that happening at the moment with a lot of the veil fringes. So going on at the moment, getting a lot of girls requesting that, so it's obviously big on TikTok.
Yeah, I know all that TikTok.
Tara's a TikTok pro. So
Queen.
she's the queen of TikTok. So guys, as you can sort of see here is my shadowed bob, blunt bob haircut. And we're going to try the tricky manoeuvre of getting out of the kimono so we can see it in context.
Like a big reveal.
It is like a big reveal. And I'll just dust off the neck. Alright, and we'll just tie around. So the key thing there that we can see is just the strength of the bluntness. We'll actually get a little bit more side on, so we can once again see how that works. Little disconnected corner in the front, just has a little bit of fun with the haircut. So.
Well, that's it, guys. That's today for our Facebook Live. I believe Craig and I have another one in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I do.
On the Wednesday.
Might be on a Tuesday.
Might be on a Tuesday. We'll let you know, but we look forward to seeing you then. We'll once again post some pictures and some tips and tricks about this haircut on the group as well, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.
See you guys.
Ready? Bye. Bye.